Those ungrateful children. I did everything for him. Now he's kicking me out of my own home. Screw him. Little did he know I became a millionaire. That 3 days ago I won $17,000 on the lottery. I was kicked out of my own son's house because he said I was a burden to him. Little did he know I had become a millionaire. That 3 days ago I won $17,000 on the lottery. It was all safely tucked away with me, the winning ticket in the pocket of my old shirt. He sent me away, unaware that the man walking out the door was the richest man in town, and that's when I decided to show what life had taught me. Silence is sometimes worth more than any scream. This is the story of a father who did everything for his children, who raised, protected, loved, and yet was forgotten when he needed them most. But it's also the story of a new beginning, when pain turns into strength, resentment into a lesson, and abandonment into a turning point. Because some people only learn after they lose everything, and some fathers are only recognized after they rise from their worst fall. So here's what you do. Listen to this story to the end and share it with anyone who needs to hear this. Then tell me which part of it truly touched your heart and what city you're listening from. Do you know what destroys an old man the most? It's not sickness, it's not old age, it's not even death approaching. It's contempt, but not the contempt of the world, no. It's the contempt that comes from within, one's own home, from the mouth of someone you brought into the world, raised with love, defended even when they were wrong. That, my child, that slowly corrodes the soul. My name is Robert, but everyone calls me Bob. I'm 72 now. I'm not much of a talker, but today, if you'll allow me, I need to get this off my chest because some things you hold on to for too long, and sooner or later, you have to let them out. I'm from a small coastal town, the son of a homemaker and a truck driver. My mother, Martha, used to clean houses for the wealthy families in the city centre. She'd leave home before sunrise and come back when the moon was already high. My father, Frank, drove those coastal roads carrying lumber and supplies. He'd be away for weeks, but always sent money and brought back some souvenir. I started working at 14, carrying crates at the local farmers market. I'd wake up at 4 in the morning to help the vendors set up their stalls at the Santa Monica farmers market. I earned little, but it was enough to help at home and buy my school notebooks. I never had much education. I stopped in the 5th grade to work full-time, but I learned to do mental math and negotiate by eye. My mother always said, "Bob, education is important, but character is fundamental." And that's what she and my father taught me, the importance of a given word, honest work, respect for elders, and gratitude for everything life offers, even when it seems little. At 18, I left the market and joined a construction supply store. The owner, Mr. Johnson, was a fair man who saw potential in me. "Bob," he'd say, "you have a good eye for business and you're not afraid of hard work. That's worth more than a diploma." And he was right. In 5 years, I was already the manager of the main store. It was there I met Carol. She was 19, with brown eyes that sparkled when she smiled, and a sweet way of speaking that won me over in our first conversation. She worked at the bakery down the street and always stopped by the store to buy nails for her father, who was a carpenter. "Mr. Robert," she'd say, always formal at first, "I need 2x2 nails, half a pound. For Mr. Anderson to make another one of his masterpieces?" I'd joke, because her father truly was an artist with wood. It took me 6 months to pluck up the courage to ask her out for a casual meal, and when I finally did, it was in the most awkward way possible. "Carol, would you like to go with me to see the sunset at the Santa Monica Pier? There's music there on Sunday." She smiled, blushed a little, and said, "I accept, but only if you promise not to be nervous the whole time." That's how our story began. 3 years of dating, a wedding at St. Peter's Church, with a simple but loving reception. Carol made the desserts, my mother cooked for all the guests, and my father-in-law made the furniture for our first home. With sweat and much sacrifice, I built our life. I saved money for 2 years, working at Mr. Johnson's store and taking odd jobs on weekends. Carol also saved every penny, sewed for others, and sold cookies at the school gate. When we finally managed to buy our first plot of land, it was an emotion I'll never forget. It was a small lot on a dirt road in a quiet neighborhood right here in Santa Monica. There was no paved road, no proper sewage system, but it had something more important. It was ours. "Bob," Carol said the day we received the deed, "we'll be happy here. And you? Have you ever felt invisible at some point in your life? Has your voice ever been silenced by circumstances you couldn't control? Leave a comment about what city you're watching from and tell us about that experience. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like if the story is touching your heart, because what comes next will surprise you even more. And we were. Oh, how we were. I started building our house with my own hands. I'd wake up at 5 in the morning, go to work at the store until 5 in the afternoon, come home, take a shower, and head to the construction site. Carol helped me mix cement, carry bricks, always with that smile on her face that gave me strength to continue. In the first months, it was just the two of us, a small room, an outdoor bathroom, and a kitchen that looked more like a stove against the wall. But it was ours, and Carol made that little corner a palace. She planted flowers in the yard, painted the walls yellow. "The color of joy," she'd say, and always had hot coffee waiting for me when I got home from work. "My love," she'd say, "home isn't a place, it's a feeling, and there's a lot of good feeling here." Over time I expanded. A room here, another there. When our first daughter Sarah was born, we already had 2 bedrooms. When Kevin arrived, there were 3. And when Ryan, our youngest, came along, the house had turned into a 3-story house. But it wasn't just expanding for the sake of it. Every brick I laid had a purpose, a dream. The ground floor was ours, the place where we raised our 3 children, where we lived our best moments. The second floor I planned for when the boys grew up and wanted independence. And the third, I thought about renting out one day to ensure extra income in old age. Carol always said, "Bob, you're not just building a house, you're building our future." And she was right. For 35 years, those walls saw everything. The children's first words, birthdays, silly, couple fights, reconciliations, sleepless nights caring for a sick child, celebrations of school achievements. Sarah, our eldest, was always independent. From a young age, she showed she had a strong personality and knew what she wanted. She studied, graduated with a business degree, married young, and moved to New York City with her husband. She keeps in touch, calls every Sunday, visits us for holiday parties. She's a present daughter from a distance, if that makes sense. Kevin, our middle child, followed a similar path. He graduated with an engineering degree, got a job at a company in San Francisco, and built his life there. He's also present, also calls, also visits us. But he always made it clear that he needed to fly with his own wings. But Ryan was always different, perhaps because he was the youngest, perhaps because he was born when Carol and I were older and less strict, perhaps because of his way of speaking beautifully, of always seeming more fragile than his siblings. The fact is that Ryan was always the most spoiled. While Sarah and Kevin learned early on that they had to fight for what they wanted, Ryan grew up thinking things came naturally. When the other 2 left home, he stayed with us. When he finished high school, he didn't want to go to college. "Dad, I'll work and save money," he said. "Studying isn't for me." I tried to guide him, show him the importance of education, but Carol always interfered. "Leave the boy alone, Bob. Everyone has their own time." And so it was. Ryan got a job at a cleaning supply company, simple but honest work. He earned little, but since he lived with us, he managed to save some money. At 25, he met Ashley, a young, pretty girl from a simple family like ours. 2 years of dating, a civil wedding, a small party at home, and when they got married, I did what I thought was right. I gave them the 2nd floor of the house. "Here it is, my son," I said, handing him the key with a heart full of pride. "Now you have your home," he cried, hugged me, called me a hero. "Dad, you're the best dad in the world. I'll never forget this." I thought I had done my part as a father, but life teaches that what we give is not always what the other person values. The years passed peacefully. Carol and I on the ground floor, Ryan and Ashley on the second floor, and the third rented out to a retired couple who took care of the place as if it were their own. The house was always full of life, voices, movement. Carol aged with that natural elegance of women who love and are loved. At 65, she still cooked for everyone, still tended to the plants in the yard, still waited for Ryan to come home from work with a plate of food ready. "Mom," he'd say, "you don't have to do this. We can take care of ourselves." "Son," she'd reply, "taking care of you isn't an obligation. It's a pleasure." And it truly was. Carol found joy in simple things. Sunday family breakfasts, visits from Sarah and Kevin, the sound of children playing in the yard. She was the heart of our home, until one winter morning everything changed. Carol always had good health. She never complained, never got sick. So, when she started with those dry coughs, we didn't pay much attention. "It's the dry weather, honey," I'd say. "It'll pass soon." But it didn't. The cough got stronger. Then came shortness of breath, fatigue. I took her to the doctor. Tests, more tests. And then came the diagnosis that changed everything. Lung cancer. Already spread. "How long?" I asked the doctor, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hard to say, Mr. Robert. With treatment, a few months, maybe a year, if lucky." Luck. What a strange word to use in such a situation. Carol received the news with a serenity that impressed me. "Bob," she said, holding my hand, "everyone has a time in this world. The important thing is that ours was well lived." The following months were a roller coaster of emotions. Good days, when she seemed almost normal, cooking, tending to the plants, receiving visits from children and grandchildren, and bad days, when the pain was so great she could barely get out of bed. Ryan and Ashley helped as much as they could. They took her to the doctor when I couldn't, kept her company on long afternoons, took care of the house when I was at the hospital with her. Sarah and Kevin came whenever they could, taking turns so Carol was never alone. It was on a cold July morning that she passed away. I was sleeping next to her, as I had every night for those last few months. I woke up in the middle of the night and realized her breathing was different. I called her softly, "Carol, my love, are you okay?" She opened her eyes, looked at me with that weak but true smile, squeezed my hand and said, "Thank you for everything, my dear. Take good care of our family," and closed her eyes. Forever. Carol left in silence without suffering, like someone who simply decides their mission in this world is complete. She died at 67, leaving a void in me that I didn't even know where to begin to fill. After Carol left, the house felt different. Not just because she wasn't physically there anymore, but because she was what held us all together. She was the one who organized Sunday lunches, who remembered birthdays, who called the children to see how they were doing. The first few days were the hardest. Waking up and not having coffee ready. Coming home and not hearing her, "You're home, love," that she always said from the kitchen. Sitting at the dinner table and seeing her chair empty. Ryan and Ashley tried to help. She even offered to cook for me a few times. "No need, dear," I'd say. "I'm learning to manage," because that's exactly what I was doing. Learning to live alone at 67 after 45 years of marriage. Sarah came from New York and stayed with me for a week. "Dad, are you sure you want to stay here? This house is too big. There are too many memories. Don't you want to come spend some time at my place?" "Daughter," I replied, "this house isn't just memories, it's my life. It's where I built everything I hold most important. I'm not leaving here." And I didn't. Slowly, I adapted to the new reality. I learned to cook. It never tasted like Carol's, but it was enough. I learned to take care of the plants she loved so much. I learned to live with the silence. But the loneliness. The loneliness was a difficult companion to accept. It was then that I would go up. I'd go up to the second floor, knock on Ryan's door, just to have a coffee, see someone's face, hear a human voice that wasn't the radio or TV. At first they welcomed me. Ashley made coffee, we'd talk about pleasantries, the weather, the price of things, the news. Ryan would talk about work. I'd talk about the plants in the yard, about the retired couple on the 3rd floor. But as the months passed, I noticed subtle changes. The glances exchanged between Ryan and Ashley when I went up, the barely disguised discomfort, shorter. Answers, the rush to end the conversation. "Dad," Ryan would say after half an hour, "don't you want to rest? You look tired." Or, "Dad, we were just about to head out. We have some things to take care of." Always an excuse, always a polite way to send me away. And I'd go down to my floor, emptier than ever, understanding that I was becoming an inconvenience in my own son's life. The last straw came on a rainy Tuesday in March. I had spent the whole day alone with that fine autumn rain that seemed like it would never stop. I was feeling particularly lonely. You know those days when the longing hits hardest? And decided to go up and have dinner with them. I knocked on the door as usual. Ryan opened it, but this time he didn't smile. "Hi, Dad, is something wrong?" "No, son. Just wanted to know if you guys wanted to have dinner with me tonight. I made some roasted chicken thighs. They turned out pretty good." He stood in the doorway, not inviting me in. I heard Ashley's voice from inside. "Who is it, Ryan?" "It's Dad." Silence. One of those heavy silences that say more than any words. Ryan looked back, then at me, and that's when he said the words I'll never forget. "Dad, with all due respect, it's getting difficult to keep you here. The electricity bill went up a lot this month, and the water too, and there's the privacy issue. Ashley and I want to have a child, plan our future. With you living downstairs, always coming up, it gets complicated. Don't take it the wrong way, but maybe it's time for you to look for another place, a more suitable place for your age." Another place. I built that place with my own hands. I raised every wall, every brick was laid by me. The house was mine, the land was mine, the deed was in my name. Everything there bore my sweat, my blood, my history. 45 years of work, sacrifice, love. And there he was, my own son, the same one I held in my arms as a baby, whom I taught to walk, whom I protected from all the evils of the world, inviting me to leave as if I were an annoying tenant, as if I were an expense, a nuisance, a problem to be solved. "Ryan," I managed to say, with as much control as I could, "you know this house is mine, right? That it's been in my name all along." He turned red, stammered a little. "Dad, I know, of course I know, but it's complicated. You understand, right?" I didn't say anything else. I swallowed hard, nodded, and went back to my floor. I closed the door, sat in the armchair. Carol liked so much, and stayed there in the dark, trying to process what had just happened. My son had humiliated me in my own home. The son I raised, educated, always treated with love and respect, had treated me like a burden, like someone disposable. And life, my friend, has a curious way of settling scores. That's why I say it's not the world outside that hurts us most. It's when the stab comes from someone you held in your lap. In the following days, I tried to act as if nothing had happened. I kept my routine, woke up early, tended to the plants, went to the grocery store, came home. But something had changed inside me. That house, which had always been my refuge, now seemed to push me out. The silence was different. It was no longer the silence of longing for Carol, which hurt but was comforting. It was a cold, heavy silence that screamed I was no longer welcome there. Ryan avoided me. He left early, came back late. When we crossed paths on the stairs or in the yard, he barely greeted me, a dry "Hi, Dad," without looking me in the eye. Ashley didn't even bother to hide her discomfort. She passed me as if I were invisible. It was on one of those melancholic Wednesday afternoons that I did something I never did. I bought a lottery ticket. I was coming back from the pharmacy, always some medicine to buy at my age, when I stopped at the newsstand owned by Mr. Henderson. It was a small stand on the corner of the street where I always bought the newspaper and sometimes chatted about baseball. "Hey, Mr. Bob, how you doing?" "Fine, Mr. Henderson, just getting by, you know." "That's the spirit. Going to try your luck today?" he joked, pointing to the Mega Millions posters. I looked at the numbers hanging there, at the posters promising millions, and thought, why not? My luck couldn't get any worse anyway. "You know what, Mr. Henderson? I think I will." I took the slip and started marking the numbers. I had no strategy, I just chose numbers that meant something to me. 15, the day I met Carol. 23, our wedding day. 47, years we were married. 67, Carol's age when she died. 12, Ryan's birthday. And 8, our house number. "Lucky numbers?" Mr. Henderson asked, checking the ticket. "Life numbers," I replied. I paid the $5, put the ticket in the pocket of my old shirt, and forgot about it. I had more important things to worry about at the moment. On Friday of that week, something happened that confirmed I really needed to leave. I got home, after a doctor's appointment, and found a flyer on the kitchen table. Good Hope Retirement Home. The best for seniors, family environment, 24-hour care, activities for the golden years. They didn't even have the courage to hand it to me or talk about it. They just left the paper there, like someone dropping off a dog on the side of the road and thinking they're doing the right thing. I laughed. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I laughed, a bitter laugh, from someone who finally got the message. I picked up the paper, folded it neatly, and put it in my shirt pocket along with the lottery ticket I had forgotten about. "That's right, Ryan," I said to myself in the empty kitchen. That's right. It was Saturday morning when everything changed. I was having coffee alone, as I always did since Carol left, listening to the radio play some old songs. The announcer started talking about the previous night's Mega Millions results. At first, I thought about changing the station. What interest did I have in knowing who became a millionaire? But something made me keep listening, and the numbers drawn were 8, 12, 15, 23, 47 and 67. At first, I thought I'd misheard. I turned off the radio, turned on the TV, searched until I found a channel that was repeating the results. The same numbers. With trembling hands, I took the ticket from my shirt pocket. I checked it once, twice, 3 times. All the numbers matched, every single one of them. I, Robert Johnson, a 72-year-old retired salesman, had just won 17,000 dollars on the lottery. I sat in the kitchen chair and stared at that piece of paper. 17,000 dollars. It was more money than I could ever imagine. It was more money than my entire family would earn in several lifetimes. And the most ironic part of it all, it happened exactly the week my son told me to look for another place. My first reaction was to run upstairs and tell Ryan, "Son, you won't believe it. I won the lottery. We're rich." That's what my father's heart wanted to do. But then I remembered his words, the retirement home flyer on the table, the way he looked at me in recent months, as if I were a burden, an expense, a problem. And I decided to keep quiet. I didn't tell anyone. Not Ryan, not Ashley, not the neighbors, not Mr. Henderson at the newsstand. I kept the winning ticket along with the retirement home flyer, 2 pieces of paper that symbolized 2 completely different realities in my life. On Sunday, I called the lottery office. Downtown, I explained the situation to the manager, who almost fainted on the other end of the line. "Are you sure, Mr. Robert? Did you check all the numbers?" "I checked several times. They all match." "Then you need to come here first thing Monday morning. Bring your ID and the ticket. We'll start the redemption process." "And how long does that take?" "About 15 days to release the money. It's standard procedure." Monday morning, I took the bus downtown. I told Ryan, who was leaving for work, that I was going to take care of some things at the Social Security office. He didn't even ask what. At the lottery office, they confirmed everything. Original ticket, correct numbers, the largest individual prize in that agency's history. The manager, Mr. Charles, treated me like a celebrity. "Mr. Robert, you're making history here. 17,000 no. What do you plan to do with so much money?" "First, Mr. Charles, I plan to live with dignity." I started the whole process. Paperwork, bank, account, income tax. It was all very bureaucratic but necessary. The money would be released in 2 weeks. I returned home with the same usual expression. Ryan was at work. Ashley didn't even show up. I sat in my armchair, turned on the radio, and started thinking about what to do with this new reality. During those 2 weeks, I maintained the same routine. The only difference was that now I observed everything with different eyes. I saw Ryan come home from work complaining about his low salary. I saw Ashley commenting on how tight money was. I saw them both making plans for the future based on a financial reality that I could change with a single conversation. But I didn't change anything, because I wanted to understand one thing. Would they change with me out of love or out of self-interest? At the end of the second week, the retirement home flyer was still on the kitchen table, like a constant reminder that in their view, I was a problem to be solved. It was when the money hit my account that I made my decision. On Tuesday, April 15th, a date I'll never forget, I received a call from Mr. Charles confirming that the $17,000 was available in my account. For a few seconds, I stood in silence, looking at the statement I had printed at the bank. 17,000, $17 million. It was real, it was mine, and it would change everything. I called an attorney recommended by the bank itself, Dr. Mark Johnson. He was a serious, discreet man, an expert in large fortunes. I scheduled a meeting for that same afternoon. Dr. Johnson, I explained in his office, I won this money, but I have a delicate family situation. I need guidance. I told him everything. Carol's death, the loneliness, the way Ryan treated me, the retirement home flyer. He listened attentively without judgment. Mr. Robert, you have more power now than you imagine, but I suggest you use it wisely. Money can reveal people's true character, both ours and others. That's exactly what I want to find out, Doctor. We developed a plan. First, I would buy a house. Nothing extravagant at first, but comfortable enough to show that I could live well on my own. Then I would make some discreet investments to ensure monthly income. And finally, I would wait to see Ryan's reaction. And how much should he know about your new financial situation? For now, nothing. I want to see if he misses me out of love or out of self-interest. I left the lawyer's office with a strange feeling. It was as if there were two Bobs inside me, the father who wanted to forgive and include his son in everything, and the wounded man who needed to protect his dignity. I spent the next few days looking for a house. I wanted something simple, but in a good location. I found a perfect residence in a pleasant neighborhood like Malibu. 3 bedrooms, a spacious living room, a modern kitchen, a yard with space for a garden. Price, $380,000. Can I pay in cash? I asked the real estate agent. Of course, Mr. Robert. With cash payment, we even give a 10% discount. I closed the deal right away. $342,000 paid the same day. The agent, Miss Susan, was impressed by the quick decision. Are you sure? Don't you want to think about it more? Talk to your family? Miss Susan, at 72, you don't have time to think too much. And family sometimes needs to understand that we are still capable of making decisions on our own. The following Saturday, I hired a moving company. It was a simple move. I had few belongings after a lifetime. Clothes, some basic furniture, the old radio, photos of Carol, and the deed to the old house. On Friday night, I prepared everything. I packed my things in a few boxes, cleaned the house, watered the plants for the last time, and I left a note on the kitchen table next to the retirement home flyer that was still there. Son, I found a better place for my age. Thank you for everything. Dad. Just like that. No drama, no long explanations. Just the truth. I left the house at 6 in the morning on Saturday, when Ryan was still asleep. The moving truck arrived promptly. In 2 hours, everything was loaded. My entire life fitting into a few pieces of furniture and boxes. The hardest part was leaving the garden Carol loved so much. Those rose bushes she planted, the jasmine tree that bloomed every year, the mint she used to make tea. but I took some cuttings in small pots. I wanted a piece of her in the new house. The house in Malibu was everything I needed. Simple but comfortable. 3 bedrooms, one for me, one for guests, in case the children ever wanted to visit, and one I turned into an office. The living room was spacious, with large windows that let in plenty of light. The kitchen was modern, but cozy. The backyard was what caught my attention the most. It wasn't large, but it had potential. I could already imagine where I would plant Carol's roses, where I would make a vegetable garden, where I would put a table for breakfast on beautiful days. In the first few days, I slept with the window open just to hear the sounds of life. Children playing in the street, a neighbor singing in the shower, a dog barking. All of this reminded me that I was still here, still breathing, still part of something, and slowly I became known in the neighborhood. Mr. Bob from the Blue House, they'd say. No one knew my story, but they knew I was polite, that I greeted everyone, that I had time to chat at the gate. Mrs. Smith, my neighbor to the right, was the first to welcome me. Mr. Bob, if you need anything, just let me know. I've lived here for 20 years. I know everyone. Mr. Jones, a retiree like me, became my domino partner on Sunday afternoons. Bob, you play well. Where did you learn? Oh, Jones, life teaches everything. You just need to pay attention. I bought basic furniture without ostentation. A simple dining table, a comfortable sofa, a good bed. At my age, sleeping well is essential. I spent a total of about $30,000 on furniture and appliances. For someone with $17,000 NAS, it was almost nothing, but I wanted to keep up appearances. I opened a checking account at a branch near home and transferred $2,000 from the total. The rest remained invested in applications that yielded a good monthly sum. According to Dr. Johnson, I could live comfortably spending up to $200,000 a month just from the earnings without touching the principal. But I continued to live simply. I bought groceries at the neighborhood store, cooked at home, watched TV at night. The only difference was that now, when I went out with friends for a beer, I paid for the round without hesitation. "Hey, Bob, are you rich today?" Mr. Jones would joke. "Rich in friendship, Jones, rich in friendship." Ryan went a week without contacting me. A whole week. He probably thought I had gone out in the morning to take care of something and would be back in the afternoon. Only when the week passed did he probably realize I had actually left home. On Friday night, my phone rang. It was him. "Hello, Dad. Where are you?" From his tone of voice, I could tell he was nervous, perhaps even worried. "I'm fine, son. I found a suitable place for myself." "But, Dad, you left the house, just like that. I'm here, looking at the note. Why did you do this?" I remained silent for a few seconds. I wanted to choose my words carefully. "Ryan, didn't you say it was better for me to look for another place? That it was getting difficult to keep me there? Well, I found a better place." "Dad, but I didn't mean. I was going through some problems. I was stressed." "And you took it out on me, son. On your father, who never did you any harm." There was silence on the other end of the line, a heavy silence, one of those that say more than any words. "Dad, where are you living? Can I come visit you?" "You can, but now I'll set the time. And when you come, because you want to see me, not because you're worried about what others will say." "What do you mean?" "You understood, Ryan, you understood." I hung up the phone and thought about it. For the first time in months, I felt I had some control over my own life. I was no longer the inconvenient father who interfered with his children's plans. I was a 72-year-old man, master of my own life, who chose who I wanted to keep close. On Saturday, he called again. Now the tone was different, less anxious, more respectful. "Dad, I thought about what you said. You're right. I treated you badly, and there's no excuse for it. Can I come visit you? Just so we can talk properly." "You can come, son. Sunday, 2 in the afternoon." I spent Saturday preparing the house to receive Ryan, not to impress him, but because I wanted him to see that I was doing well, that I had made the right choice. I bought some cookies he liked, made special coffee. I organized the living room, Place Carol's photos in a visible spot. Sunday, precisely at 2 in the afternoon. The doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Ryan looked different, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes, his hair disheveled. He looked like he hadn't been sleeping well. "Hi, Dad." "Hi, son, come in." He entered and stood in the living room, looking around. The house was simple but tidy, smelled good, was welcoming, very different from what he probably expected to find. "Dad, this house is nice. You're well settled here?" "I am, son. I am at peace." We sat in the living room. I offered coffee. He accepted. We sat in silence for a few minutes, each trying to find the right words to start a conversation that should have happened a long time ago. "Dad," he began, his voice a little choked up, "I came here to apologize. What I said to you was wrong. It was cruel. There's no justification." "Go on, son." "After Mom died, I thought you'd become more dependent, more needy, and that bothered me. I wanted to live my life, make my plans, without worrying about taking care of anyone. It was pure selfishness." I listened without interrupting. It was important for him to speak, to let out everything he was feeling. And when I said those things about looking for another place, I was only thinking about my convenience. I didn't think about how you would feel. I didn't think I was kicking my own father out of the house he built. And what did you think about, Ryan? I thought about myself, only myself, my comfort, my privacy, my money, as if you were an intruder in the life I wanted to build. He fell silent, looking at his own hands. Then he continued, "The worst part is that after you left, the house felt empty, cold. It wasn't just your physical absence. It was as if our whole family history had left with you." "And how is Ashley?" "Ashley, she got scared when she saw that you had actually left. I don't think she expected me to be serious about sending you away. Now she keeps on me, saying I was a coward, that that's not how you treat a father." I served him more coffee. Ryan always liked strong coffee, just like me. "Son, did you come here just to apologize, or because you're worried about what people will say?" He looked me in the eye, and for a moment I saw the boy I raised in him. "No, Dad. I came because I miss you. I came because I realized that without you around I have no reference. I came because I want to try to fix what I broke." That was what I wanted to hear. Not an apology out of obligation, but a sincere acknowledgement. "Ryan, you hurt your father. You hurt him deeply, but a wound doesn't kill when you treat it right. Do you forgive me?" "Son, forgiveness is a process. It's not a one-day decision. But I'm willing to try." He stayed for another hour. We talked about everyday things, about how I was adapting to the new house, about the friendly neighbors I had met. When he left, he hugged me in a way he hadn't in a long time. A true, affectionate hug. "Dad, can I come visit you sometimes?" "You can, son, but it's different now. Now you come when you want to see your father, not because you feel obligated." In the following months, I established a routine that made me feel good. I woke up early, tended to the garden I was creating in the yard, had coffee listening to the radio. In the mornings, I went to the grocery store or took care of something in town. In the afternoons, I rested, read, sometimes received visits from a neighbor. And Ryan started showing up. Not often, not always. But he showed up, first once a week, then twice, always on Sunday after lunch. The first few visits were a bit formal, as if we were getting to know each other again. He'd arrive, have coffee, we'd talk about pleasantries, and then he'd leave. But gradually, we relaxed. "Dad, you seem different." "Different how?" "More peaceful, more free, as if a weight has been lifted off your shoulders." "It has been, son. The weight of living where I wasn't welcome. And I was to blame for that." "You were. But now we're here, trying to rebuild." In these conversations, I began to understand better what had happened to Ryan. After Carol died, he became afraid. Afraid of having to take care of me, afraid of losing his freedom, afraid of becoming the son who never left home. "Dad, I saw my friends complaining about their elderly parents, the responsibilities, the expenses, and I became afraid that the same thing would happen to me. And you preferred to push me away before it became a problem. I preferred to, and it was the stupidest decision I ever made. During this period, I maintained my simple lifestyle. Even having enough money to buy anything, I continued to live modestly. I discreetly bought some properties to rent out, nothing too flashy, but enough to ensure a good monthly income. Ryan never asked where the money came from for me to maintain that lifestyle. He knew I received Social Security and probably imagined I had some savings put away. It never crossed his mind that his retired father could be a millionaire, and I preferred it that way. I wanted him to reconnect out of love, not out of self-interest. It was around this time that I began to get to know the neighborhood better. Malibu was a pleasant place to live. It had bustling shops, a small park where seniors gathered to play checkers, tree-lined streets where you could walk peacefully. Mr. Peterson, the owner of the corner bakery, became a friend. Mr. Bob, you have a way with people. You should get more involved in the community. It was he who told me about the senior group that met at the neighborhood church every Thursday. We do a bit of everything. Play cards, chat, sometimes go on outings. You'd like it. I decided to try it. The following Thursday I went to the church. It was a group of about 15 people, men and women between 60 and 80 years old. I was well received. "Welcome, Mr. Robert," said Mrs. Evelyn, who coordinated the group. "Here we have fun and also do good." And it was true. In addition to social gatherings, the group organized donation drives, visited sick seniors, helped needy families in the neighborhood. It was a way for me to feel useful again. It was in this group that I met Mrs. Helen. Mrs. Helen was 68, widowed for 3 years, and had a smile that reminded me of Carol. Not that they were physically alike. Carol was brunette, short. Mrs. Helen was blonde, tall, elegant, but there was something about her smile that brought peace. She had been a teacher her entire life, had 2 children who lived in other cities, and had been part of the senior group since she became a widow. "My Robert," she said the first time we talked, "you look like someone who has a story to tell." "Every person our age has a story, Mrs. Helen." "True, but you look like someone who learned something from those stories." We got to know each other slowly. She told me about her years of teaching, about the students she still met on the street and who greeted her. I talked about my life, about Carol, about my children, about the decision to leave home. "You did the right thing," she said when I told her about Ryan. "Sometimes we need to teach people to value us, and that only happens when we show that we are capable of living without them." Mrs. Helen became a special friend, not a romance. We were too old for such nonsense, but a pleasant companionship. We went together on group outings, to Sunday masses, sometimes had coffee at my house, or hers. "Mr. Robert," she said one day, "you are a lucky man." "Why, Mrs. Helen?" "Because you had the courage to start over at 72. Many people our age settle into resentment, into bitterness. You chose freedom." Ryan met Mrs. Helen on one of his Sunday visits. She was at home having coffee with us when he arrived. "Son, this is Mrs. Helen, a special friend." "Nice to meet you," he said politely. After she left, Ryan was curious. "Dad, is she your girlfriend?" I laughed. "Son, at 72, we don't date. We keep each other company. And are you happy?" "I am at peace, Ryan, which is something better than happiness." It was on a Sunday in September that Ryan showed up with a surprise. He rang the doorbell earlier than usual, and when I opened the door, he was accompanied. "Dad, this is Gabriel, my son, my grandson." The boy was 8 years old, dark hair like his father's, curious eyes, a bit shy. It was the first time I had seen him. Ryan had never brought him to visit. "Gabriel," Ryan said, "this is your grandpa Robert." The boy looked at me with genuine interest. Unlike his father during that terrible time, he didn't see me as a burden or a problem. He just saw a grandpa. "Grandpa, you have a nice house," he said, looking around. "Thank you, my grandson. Do you want to come in and see?" Gabriel entered with curiosity, looking at everything. He stopped at the bookshelf I had set up in the living room. "Grandpa, do you read a lot?" "I like to read, yes. How about you?" "Me too. My dad said you know a lot of stories." At that moment, my heart warmed in a way it hadn't in a long time. It had been years since anyone showed genuine interest in my stories, in my experience. "Do you want me to tell you a story?" "I do." I sat with Gabriel on the sofa and started telling him about when I was a boy, when there were no video games or computers, and we had fun flying kites, playing marbles, fishing in the creek. He listened with shining eyes, asking questions, asking for details. "Grandpa, what was it like to swim in the creek? Grandpa, did you know how to make a kite?" Ryan watched everything in silence. Perhaps it was the first time he saw me as something more than a problem to be solved. Perhaps he realized that I had a lot to offer, a lot to teach. "Gabriel," I said, "next time you come, I'll bring a really cool storybook for you. Promise." "I promise." When they left, Gabriel hugged me spontaneously. "I really liked you, Grandpa." That deeply moved me. After months of being treated as a nuisance, suddenly there was someone who liked me simply for who I was. "Dad," Ryan said on the way out, "thank you for being so welcoming to Gabriel. He was curious to meet his grandpa." "And why did it take you so long to bring him?" Ryan blushed. "Because I was ashamed of what I did to you." It was the most honest admission he had made so far. 2 years passed since I left home. 2 years in which I built a new life, a new routine, new relationships. Ryan continued to visit me. Our relationship was slowly improving. Gabriel became a constant presence. He came at least twice a month, always curious, always affectionate. But the time came when I decided it was time to tell the truth. It was a warm Sunday in November. Ryan had come for lunch, brought Gabriel. We were on the porch, relaxing after the meal, when I mustered the courage. "Son, I need to tell you something." "Go ahead, Dad." I got up, went to the room, and came back with a folder where I kept important documents. I took out the framed lottery ticket, the bank statements from the last 2 years, and the retirement home flyer I had kept as a souvenir. "Remember that day you told me to look for another place?" He nodded, a little embarrassed. Even after 2 years, he still felt ashamed of that episode. "Remember this flyer you left on the table?" I showed him the retirement home flyer. Ryan blushed even more. "Dad, I already apologized for that. I'm not bringing it up to blame. You, son, I just want you to understand the timing of things." I took the framed lottery ticket. 3 days before that episode, I had won this. I showed him the ticket and the bank statement. 17,000 aguilas. Ryan turned pale, then red, then completely colorless. "Dad, I don't understand." Gabriel, who was playing with a toy car, looked up. "Grandpa, what are those numbers?" "Those are the numbers that made Grandpa rich, my grandson." "Rich how?" "Rich enough to buy a lot of cars like yours." Gabriel's eyes widened. Ryan was still processing the information. "Dad, are you saying that when that happened, you were already a millionaire?" "I was already a millionaire, Ryan." He lowered his head and stayed that way for a long time. When he looked up, his eyes were teary. "Dad, I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything, son. You just need to understand one thing. Money doesn't change character. It only reveals who we truly are." Gabriel, always curious, asked her, "Grandpa, does that mean you're very rich?" "It means Grandpa has enough money to take care of himself and still help those he loves." Ryan tried to say something, but he couldn't. He was clearly in shock. "Dad, why didn't you tell me before?" "Because I needed to know if you would come back out of love or out of self-interest. I needed to know if the son I raised still existed beneath the selfish man you had become." "And now, what do you think?" I looked at him, at Gabriel playing. Beside us, at the entire journey we had traveled together in these 2 years. "Now I know you came back out of love, and that's worth more than any money." That afternoon, we had the most honest conversation of our lives. Ryan cried, asked for forgiveness once again, acknowledged the gravity of what he had done. Dad, I was unfair. I was cruel. And the worst part is that I did it when you were most vulnerable, alone, needing affection. Ryan, you learned, and that's what matters. I didn't hold a grudge, because holding a grudge is a prison. But you must have wanted to throw it in my face, to humiliate me as I humiliated you. I did, son. In the first few days I really wanted to, but then I thought, what kind of man would that make me? What kind of father? Gabriel, who still didn't fully understand the adults' conversation, but sensed it was important, remained quiet, listening. Why didn't you tell me about the prize before? Because if I had told you then, you would have changed. With me out of self-interest, not out of remorse. You would have been good because Dad got rich, not because you realized you had been unfair. He understood, and from that day on, our relationship changed completely. Dad, you're right. If I had known then, my reaction would have been completely different, and worse, if you were truly poor, I probably would never have come back. It was a painful admission, but an honest one. And now, what's going to happen? He asked. Now nothing changes. You'll continue to visit me because you care about your father. I'll continue to live my simple life, and when the time is right, we'll talk about inheritance and those things. Do you really forgive me? Son, forgiveness is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But in these 2 years, seeing you change, seeing you strive to be a better son, I've been forgiving little by little. Gabriel, who had gotten tired of being quiet, asked, Grandpa, why is my dad crying? Because sometimes adults cry when they're happy, my grandson. And are you happy, Grandpa? I am at peace, Gabriel, which is something even better. Today, 3 years after the revelation, I use my fortune with purpose, not ostentatiously, but strategically. I help neighborhood charities, fund scholarships for underprivileged young people, support small entrepreneurs who are just starting out. Ryan now works with me at a foundation we created together to help vulnerable seniors. It's a way for him to somehow repay the wrong he did to me. Dad, he told me when I proposed this idea, working with you would be an honor. The foundation is called Carol's Home in honor of my wife. We offer social assistance, psychological support, cultural activities, and even financial aid to seniors who find themselves in similar situations to what I experienced. Mr. Robert, said Mrs. Evelyn from the senior group, you are doing a wonderful job. Many people are being helped. Gabriel, who is now 11, doesn't know exactly how much money his grandfather has, but he understands that he can count on me for everything. And more importantly, he respects me not for what I have, but for who I am. Grandpa, he told me the other day, when I grow up, I want to be like you. How so, my grandson? I want to know how to keep a secret when needed, be strong in difficult times, and forgive when someone hurts me. That touched me more deeply than any lottery prize. And I also want to help people, like you do. Gabriel, helping people doesn't require money, it requires heart, and you already have a beautiful heart. Sarah and Kevin, my other children, found out the whole story when they came to visit me last Christmas. Their reaction was interesting. Dad, Sarah said, I always knew Ryan was too spoiled, but I never imagined it would go that far. The important thing is that he learned, I replied. And you? How did you manage to forgive something like that? Daughter, resentment is a burden that only hurts the one who carries it. I chose to release that weight. Kevin was impressed by the wisdom of the decision. Dad, using silence like that was brilliant. You taught Ryan a lesson he'll never forget. Ryan changed completely. He became a present father to Gabriel, an attentive son to me, a man of his word. Ashley, who at first saw me as a nuisance, now treats me as the patriarch of the family. They include me in everything, consult me for important decisions, value my opinion. But most importantly, they do it not because they know I'm rich, but because they finally saw my worth as a person. Dad, Ryan told me recently, if you hadn't kept that secret, I never would have learned. I never would have grown. You gave me the chance to come back out of love, not out of self-interest. That's what I wanted to hear, because in the end, money is just paper. What remains is love, respect, dignity, and that, my friends, is priceless. Mrs. Helen continues to be my special companion. She knows about my financial situation, but has never changed the way she treats me. Mr. Robert, she says, you are truly rich in heart. The house in Malibu became my refuge. The garden flourished. Carol's rose bushes are beautiful. The vegetable patch produces fresh herbs. It's a place of peace, where I welcome those who wish me well and close the doors to those who don't value me. Sometimes, on quiet Sunday afternoons, I sit on the porch and think about everything that has happened, how life has. These ironies that even a TV writer couldn't invent. My son, who told me to look for another place because I was a financial burden, didn't know he was talking to a man who had just won $17,000 on the lottery. If I had told him at that moment, everything would have been different. Ryan would have changed instantly, would have become the most attentive son in the world, would have showered me with care. But would it have been true love or disguised self-interest? I chose silence, and silence taught me that true love is that which returns willingly, not out of necessity. Over these years, I have learned some important things. First lesson: dignity is not negotiable. No matter how old you are, no matter how dependent you may seem, never accept being treated as a burden or nuisance by anyone, not even by your own children. Second lesson: money doesn't change people. It only reveals who they truly are. If Ryan had known about my fortune at that moment, he would have been kind to me, but it would have been a kindness born of self-interest, not sincerity. Third lesson: sometimes, to teach love, you need to step away. People only value what they lose. As long as I was there, available, being treated badly, Ryan thought he could discard me. When I left, he felt the emptiness. Fourth lesson: forgiveness is a process, not an event. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a decision you make every day to slowly release resentment, to give people chances to change. Fifth lesson: the greatest inheritance we can leave our children is not money, it's character, it's teaching values, showing by example what it means to be a good person. Today, at 75, I can say I am a fulfilled man. Not because I have money, although that helps a lot, but because I live surrounded by true love. Gabriel grew up and became a special boy. He's 11, intelligent, affectionate, respectful. He visits me every week, tells me about school, friends, dreams. I learned to play video games so I could play with him. He teaches me technology. I teach him history and values. Grandpa, he told me the other day, you're my hero. Why, my grandson? Because you teach me the important things in life, and because you forgave my dad when he was mean to you. Children see things that adults sometimes cannot. Ryan became a different man, not just a better son, but a better person. He works diligently at the foundation, is a present father to Gabriel, takes care of me with sincere affection. Dad, he told me recently, all these years I thought being a man meant not needing anyone. Today I understand that being a man is knowing how to take care of those you love. Ashley also changed. At first, after she learned the whole story, she was embarrassed. She couldn't look me in the eye. But over time, she loosened up. Today, she treats me as the father-in-law I always deserved to be treated. Mr. Robert, she told me last Christmas, thank you for forgiving us, for giving our family a second chance. One of the most beautiful things about this new phase of my life has been the friendships I've built. The senior group has become a second family. They are people who, like me, understood that life doesn't end at 60, 70, that there's still much to live, to learn, to teach. Mr. Jones, my domino partner, has an interesting philosophy. Bob, we don't just get old, we mature, and ripe fruit is sweeter. Mrs. Evelyn always says, Robert, you arrived here sad and lonely. Today, you are joyful and surrounded by people who care about you. It's proof that it's never too late to start over. And Mrs. Helen. Ah, Mrs. Helen. She became much more than a friend. At 68, she taught me that it's possible to find companionship and affection even in old age. Robert, she told me the other day, you gave me back the joy of living. How so? After my husband died, I thought the good part of life was over, that I would just survive until the end. You showed me that it's still possible to be happy. It's not a movie romance, no. It's something more mature, more serene. It's the pleasant companionship of someone who understands that time is precious and that every moment together is a gift. With Carol's Home Foundation running well, I started thinking about the legacy I want to leave. I've already drawn up my will with the help of Dr. Johnson. Most of the fortune will go to the foundation so it can continue helping vulnerable seniors. To Ryan, I leave the house where he currently lives. I bought it from him without him knowing through the lawyer, and an amount sufficient for him and Gabriel to live comfortably. Not too much, so they don't get complacent, but enough for security. To Sarah and Kevin, I leave similar amounts. They have always been independent, built their lives with their own effort. They deserve to be remembered. For Gabriel, I created a fund that can only be accessed when he turns 25, and even then, only if he is studying or working. I want him to learn the value of effort. Grandpa, Gabriel asked me when I explained this to him, why only at 25? Because by then you will have learned to be a person, my grandson. You will discover your talents, face difficulties, understand the value of things. Too much easy money can spoil a person. What if I don't want the money? Then you can donate it to those in need, but something tells me you'll use it well. To Mrs. Helen, I left the house in Malibu. Robert, she protested when I told her that's too much. Helen, you gave me companionship in my best years. This house was the scene of my happiness. I want it to continue being a scene of joy. Sarah and Kevin increased the frequency of their visits after they learned the whole story. Not out of self-interest. They had always been independent, but out of admiration. Dad, Kevin said on his last visit, you taught me a life lesson I'll carry forever. What lesson? That wisdom doesn't come from age. It comes from experience, and that sometimes you have to lose to learn to win. Sarah brought her children, my other two grandchildren whom I saw little. Now they come to spend holidays with me, filling the house with life and joy. Grandpa Robert, said Sophia, 9, why are you so calm? Because I learned that getting agitated solves nothing, my granddaughter. Thinking and acting calmly solves things. It's beautiful to see the new generation growing up with solid values. Sarah and Kevin are raising their children to be grateful, respectful, hard-working. It's the continuation of the cycle. The work at Carol's Home Foundation has brought me a satisfaction I didn't expect. Every day we receive seniors in difficult situations. Some have been abandoned by their children, as I almost was. Others have lost everything and have nowhere to go. Still others are sick and need special care. Mr. Robert, said Mr. Davis, a 78-year-old gentleman we helped, you saved my life. How so, Mr. Davis? I was living on the streets after my children kicked me out of the house. I thought I would die abandoned. Here, I found dignity again. Stories like Mr. Davis's remind me daily of how lucky I was. Lucky to have won the lottery, yes, but mainly lucky to have been able to use that luck to teach a lesson and build something positive. The foundation has already helped over 500 seniors in 3 years. We offer everything from basic assistance, food, medicine, temporary housing, to psychological support and cultural activities. Dad, Ryan told me the other day, working here, I understand more and more the gravity of what I did to you. How so? I see seniors every day who have been rejected by their children. I see the suffering, the humiliation, the despair, and I think I could have caused that to my own father. But you didn't, son, because I had the resources to protect myself, and because you knew how to turn back. Today I understand things I didn't understand when I was younger. I understand that life is made of cycles. There are times to plant and times to harvest. There are times to fight and times to rest. There are times to give and times to receive. For a long time, I was the one who gave. I worked, built, raised children, supported a family. Now I am in the harvesting phase. I reap the respect I earned, the love I planted, the gratitude I deserved. I also understand that happiness is not a permanent state. It is made of moments. The moment Gabriel hugs me and tells me he loves me. The moment Ryan seeks me out for advice. The moment Mrs. Helen smiles at me on the porch. The moment I help someone at the foundation and see gratitude in their eyes. It is these moments that make life worthwhile. As I write this story, I'm sitting on my porch watching Gabriel play in the yard with a new toy car I bought him. Ryan is in the kitchen, preparing a barbecue for Sunday lunch. Mrs. Helen arrived a little while ago, bringing a cornmeal cake she made especially for me. It's a common Sunday, with nothing extraordinary happening, but it's perfect, because it's full of what truly matters: love, family, peace. My phone rings. It's Sarah calling from New York to see how I am. "Dad, is everything okay? How was your week?" "Everything's fine, daughter. The week was good. How was yours?" We talked for a few minutes about simple things: her work, the grandchildren, the weather. Nothing special, but it's special because it's done with affection. When I hang up, Gabriel comes running. "Grandpa, can you teach me how to plant tomatoes?" "I certainly can, my grandson. Let's go to the garden." And off we go, a 75-year-old man and an 11-year-old boy, hand in hand, to plant tomatoes. He learns about the earth, about patience, about care. I learn about hope, about the future, about continuity. If you've reached this point in the story, it's because something in it touched your heart. Perhaps you've been through a similar situation. Perhaps you're a child who needs to rethink how you treat your parents. Perhaps you're a parent who is suffering from the ingratitude of your children. I want to leave a few messages for you. If you are a child, remember that your parents will not be eternal. They get old, become more fragile, need more care. Don't see them as a burden. See them as an opportunity to return all the love you received. They changed your diapers when you were a baby. Perhaps one day you'll need to change theirs. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the cycle of life. If you are a parent, remember that you have value regardless of what others think. Your dignity does not depend on your children's approval. If they fail to recognize your importance, that's their problem, not yours. But also know how to forgive. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's deciding that something will no longer control your life. If you are going through financial difficulties, remember that wealth is not just money. I was rich long before I won the lottery. I was rich in experience, in history, in love. The money just gave me the freedom to make choices. If you are alone, remember that it's never too late to start over. At 72, I built a new life, new friendships, new purposes. Life doesn't end at 60, 70, 80. As long as there's breath, there's possibility. This story is coming to an end, but my life continues. I wake up every day grateful for the gift I received. Not just the 17,000 $1,000 from the lottery, but the opportunity to use that money to teach about love, forgiveness, and dignity. Ryan became the son I always knew he could be. Gabriel is growing up with solid values. Carol's Home Foundation is helping hundreds of seniors. Mrs. Helen keeps me pleasant company. My other children and grandchildren are close. I have health, I have peace, I have purpose. Most important of all, I have love, true love, earned not with money, but with patience, forgiveness, and wisdom. And if you ask me if I would do it all again, if I would go through all that pain, all that humiliation, I would answer yes, I would. Because it was that pain that taught me the value of dignity. It was that humiliation that showed me the importance of respect. It was that abandonment that made me discover my own strength. Sometimes life needs to break us to then rebuild us stronger. Sometimes we need to lose to understand what truly matters. Sometimes silence teaches more than 1,000 words. And sometimes the best revenge is simply To live well, true love is that which returns willingly, not out of necessity. And the greatest wealth is not in what you have, but in who you are. This is my story, a story of pain that became healing, of abandonment that became a new beginning, of resentment that became forgiveness. And if it served any purpose, let it be to remember that it's never too late to be happy. It's never too late to start over. It's never too late to teach about love. And if you've made it this far, tell me, what would you do in my place? What did this story teach you? And what city are you reading me from? May God bless your journey, wherever it may take you. With affection, Robert Bob Johnson, 75 years old, millionaire, father, grandfather, and above all, a man at peace. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories. Leave a like. If you believe in the power of true love, comment what city you're following from and tell us what part touched you the most. Suggest new ideas for future stories. We love hearing from you. Remember, each of you has a unique light that deserves to be seen. Never let anyone make you invisible. True love always finds a way, and sometimes the best stories begin when we think everything has ended. See you in the next story, and may you always find someone who truly sees you.